one in English because that was original and we want everybody to participate. Okay, so the speakers here are, you see them here. It's Zack Levine from Checkout. We have Tzachi Davidovich from FlyCode, and we have Shahar from Justt. I think that, just the video that we saw right now, it was a good beginning of the discussion. Me working in Artlist, which is also a company that works in a recurring model, and being head of payments, the most, the main theme that I have to work with is revenue recovery. And basically, I think I met most of you while looking into revenue recovery. So I think, okay, let's talk about what is revenue recovery, because the more I'm digging into that topic, the more I understand it's not just one very narrow thing like Dunning, for example. There are many, many things that we can do across the whole funnel from the moment that the customer is on our payment page, actually doing the initial conversion to paid customer, through the, the recurring payments, the recovery of payments after they finish Dunning, and even during, a post payment, which is chargeback handling and refunds and so on. Who wants to start? Shahar?
Yeah, sure. So I can start. So maybe a few words about Justt. You also heard Orly before. So the company was founded around 5 years ago. We raised around 100 million to date and came with a big mission to solve the chargeback problems of the world. We work with large enterprises out there. And this is a very interesting question because while working with very large enterprises, it's really interesting to see that many companies today still are not able, when it comes to revenue recovery, are still not able to handle their entire chargeback volume that they need to handle. So I can share numbers like really the largest logos and brands you can imagine leave on the floor between 10 to 40% of their chargeback volume just from operational reasons. Now, this is real big dollar to potentially recover. And the other interesting insight is that those companies also see either a flat line with the recovery rates or they see declining recovery rates. And the main reason for it is really things change, things evolve, right? So the card scheme changed the rules at least twice a year, meaning that if you do not evolve your solution, you're going to see a decline. Also, friendly fraudsters become smarter. And the third side, which is giant, is also the technology changes, the industry evolves. Talking about agentic commerce, it's going to bring many new challenges to the space. We're expecting to see an increase in friendly fraud. And, when it comes to all of this, so my tip to you as a merchant, if you see your revenue or recovery rates stay the same or decline, or you cannot seem to handle your entire volumes, you should reconsider your chargeback mitigation strategy to enhance recovery.
Hey everyone, I'm Tzachi from FlyCode. FlyCode is doing payment recovery. We are helping subscription companies with failed payments. That's what we do. We build models that try to predict the best time to charge the customer, and we handle everything related to retries, communication with the customers, and optimizing the payment. There is a lot of money in failed payments. It's always, it's kind of hidden problem. It's in the back end of the payment. It's happening. Maybe to give you an example, like we all have subscriptions. We are specifically helping subscription app, AI startups, SaaS, and e-commerce companies that are selling subscriptions. It's often kind of surprising to the merchant. They have a customer that is subscribing, that is paying with the same car for a few months, and after a few months, something happened and the payment failed. It often happens even when the card is valid to the good payments, to your good customers, and often you see around like 30% of the transaction actually failing and declining, and this is what we do, trying to recover this volume. So just to connect to what you said, often when we look at the payment, we look at the full payment funnel, right? There is the checkout, the first time that the user actually paid, but now the user is gone from the process, and now it's everything merchant initiated related. And now when the payment actually failed in a subscription, the customer is not in the loop, or at least we are trying not to involve them as much as we can. We don't want to create like a involuntary churn, and this is the kind of the big problem. Failed payment actually link directly to churn and involuntary churn, and this is kind of the biggest drop or the biggest LTV loss of those subscription merchants.
I'm Zack Levine. Thanks for having me. Very excited to be on this panel with such a great group. A few words about checkout.com. We're a large merchant acquirer, 2,500 people. raised more than $1 billion. We have an office here in Israel that is growing. Keep us in mind if you or your friends are looking for a new opportunity. Our job boards are constantly updated. Part of what we do as one of the leading acquirers for large companies online is to prevent as many of these failed payments as possible. And as we do our job really well, the whole idea is that we can, as the company that connects directly into Visa, MasterCard, and processes payments on behalf of merchants, we can optimize a lot of that acceptance versus risk trade-off on behalf of our customers. So this problem isn't one that merchants have to deal with. At the same time, part of the opportunity, and I think where our partners like Justt and FlyCode can come in, is that large companies use multiple PSPs. Not all PSPs are created equal and have different strengths in areas of opportunity. And so we're quite fortunate in the sense that the company was built really from the start to be focused just on large merchants online. As Tzachi alluded to, there's a difference between customer-initiated transactions and subsequent merchant-initiated transactions. We have different practices internally that focus on both, but ultimately, I think we're a bit unique in the sense that this is such a strong area of focus for us compared to many other acquirers. And so depending on who you're using today and who you're partnering with today, you might see some variety of outcomes here and certainly a lot of money left on the table that can be recovered.
Okay, so now that we know who is who and where each one of you is in the funnel, so as a merchant, okay, my main, struggle is to balance out this wish to not involve the customer too much, not to create friction, but to keep with the regulation, because regulation is something I can't avoid, obviously, to give him personalized experience, even though, and it has to be seamless, okay? So from your experience, what is the right way a merchant to leverage all this and to combine them together into this perfect flow of recovery with not too much friction, but also compliant and transparent to the customer with the right correspondence to the customer and so on?
Yeah, so compliance, the different panels here talked about a lot about compliance, and what we see compliance dictates in our world is that it's becoming much easier, and we see it across the States, across Europe, and many other regions. It's becoming easier for customers to dispute transactions. You go into your issuer or bank account, 2 clicks, and you disputed your transaction, and even very high amount transaction, no question asked, and then liability immediately shifts to the merchant. So when you think about that, and as the merchant, you need to understand that you must have your internal flows and your communication with the customer really transparent. Otherwise, as the cardholder, I would just go to my bank app to dispute and not go, and hustle to go to the customer support to handle that. So really focus about clear processes, make sure that your T's and C's, your refund policies are super clear. And that way, even when a chargeback do come, eventually you'll have more tools to win it.
Yeah, so compliance in failed payment is really heavy, and it's changing all the time because the scheme at Visa and MasterCard are changing the rules. There are endless failed payment codes on the cards, different cards, different codes. Each of the payment providers are kind of treat them a bit different. I think our job is to try to consolidate everything, try to give the merchant the peace of mind that they don't need to worry. Sometimes the compliance is geography based in India and others, so we need to take it into account. Some merchants, not all of them, sometimes want to, or trying to be, I would say, a bit more aggressive, trying to abuse the retries and trying to abuse some of the payment. They think that by doing it, it will help them. It never works with compliance and payment. It never works. It always kind of hurt the authorization rate of the merchant. I think from our point of view, staying compliant, helping the merchant to actually stay compliant, but still helping the merchant to recover more payment is kind of the key. One of the things that you mentioned about like interfering with the customers or kind of involving the customer of the process, maybe I'll ask at the audience, how many of you got like an email saying, please update your payment, like your payment failed, please update your card in the last 6 months? Yeah, so everybody. So when we started FlyCode, we looked at this email and we said, maybe we shouldn't send this email immediately. Maybe we should stop. Maybe we should try to recover the payment first. And again, trying to recover the payment first, what does it mean? Soft declines, type of payments that you can recover, hard declines that you cannot really retry and you need the customer faster. Right, so this example alone about when and how to involve the customer is also a compliance decision for us, right? In soft decline, we can try to recover. No email, you won't get the email from us immediately. We will wait. And hard decline, you will get an email from us immediately and the whole communication will change. This is just one example of how compliance really impact the day-to-day and actually involve your end customers.
Yeah, I agree with you, Zach. No comments here. So then I'll ask you first.
I always have comments.
But
we don't have that much.
But I think, okay, we were very nice. There were two questions where we didn't talk about AI, but on the third question, I will start asking about AI. So obviously, all, working with I think in this world of revenue recovery and chargeback recovery and payments, we were always very strong on machine learning and automations. But I think now with the AI tools and in the first panel that we talked about the agentic commerce and so on, the game is really on. But my question would be, from your experience lately over the past couple of years, how do you feel AI is contributing, where it's really bringing on the game and where it is still better to have more human involvement and more manual processes?
Yeah, so that's the ultimate question. We all understand AI already changed the world, right? So this is pretty obvious. But when I look at, revenue recovery and also more specifically, in e-commerce, so we understand agentic commerce is coming. It's going to change also everything. I'll also drop a question to the audience here who experienced in person an agentic commerce experience here, made an attempt to buy something through an agent. Great. So a lot of friction, a lot of questions, major announcements by the major AI players out there, also by tech giants and e-commerce giants. So Shopify recently announced their own agentic commerce platform for developers. Great move, really smart. Amazon recently launched their own Buy For Me button in their platform, meaning that Amazon customers can go into the Amazon app or website and purchase through agents on websites or e-commerce platforms that are outside of the Amazon network. So that's great. Amazon keep the customer, but all the fulfillment and actually also liability stays with the merchant. So what happens if the agent goes wrong? Who's liable? Today, it's the merchant. But what I'm saying is this will create a lot of new challenge in revenue recovery. You need to understand the agentic flow. I think Forter just launched their own protocol, which is very interesting to try to bridge that gap. But on the other side of it, agentic, or when you look at agentic commerce, you understand that manual processes will just stop being as effective as they are today. And we just believe that, AI created those challenges, but AI also gave us great tools to fight and to protect this revenue. We do believe using, smart people to build better AI models, but, go full power on AI. That's really the future.
And Zach, I think that about the protocols for AI agents, me and you, we had a chat prior to the panel. And I think we discussed the fact that, yes, this is great, all this, automation in commerce, but then actually the retention of the customer that didn't buy on the website, but rather through agent, through chat, or through some kind of app could be tricky. So can you please tell me what you think about it?
Yeah, sure. Maybe I'll take a bit of a step back because there's a lot of exciting stuff online about agentic commerce. What is it and what does it mean? And very fortunately, we're in a position where we're doing a lot of work directly with Visa, MasterCard at the moment, as well as with the top three, we'll call them chat companies, because there's lots of LLM companies, but the top three chat interfaces around how to best bridge the gap. The whole idea of agentic commerce is there's a large view of the world where the idea of a website's going to go away. So back to Shahar's point around what Shopify is trying to do. No longer, if you want to buy a t-shirt online, are you going to go and look for the best website to buy that t-shirt, or even necessarily go to ChatGPT, ask what's the best t-shirt, look at the results, and then click through to the website and check out. All of that will be done on the interface of whether it's ChatGPT or Perplexity or whoever else. And so the idea is today you can start, actually you can do some of that functionality today if you use the Perplexity Comet browser and you order a smoothie. The smoothie actually, the order's placed through DoorDash and is delivered to you. It's incredibly cool if you haven't done it. But the challenge is, from a payments perspective today, the way that is done is it was sort of hacked together using virtual cards. And so if you're the merchant that is selling the smoothie and the order is coming through from ChatGPT using a virtual card, you have no idea who the customer is that's actually buying the smoothie. And that creates all sorts of issues, as it not just relates to fraud and authentication, but also chargebacks and refund policies and disintermediation between the merchant who wants to build a relationship with the customer and ultimately the agent who's standing in the middle. So I give all that background because the thing that is currently being worked on, which is super cool and pretty transformative, within Visa MasterCard is creating a new framework of how to think about the traditional four-party card model where you have agents as a specifically defined new category of participant. And in the new model, acquirers like checkout.com, we would help do the tokenization and ultimately authentication of the customer that's providing their card details to the agent. So the agent is never actually touching any card information. They don't have to worry about PCI compliance. They don't have to worry about account updaters and constantly updating the card details. We can do that all on behalf of them. And in turn, we can provide those tokens to the merchant the same way that the merchant sees those tokens today, so they can build a relationship with the merchant. So it's a very new way of thinking about how a traditional transaction would happen. And we have our big customer conference in a few weeks. We'll come out with some exciting announcements there as it relates to this topic and some of the partnerships that we've been working on. But I think that's where the world is headed. We're in this really cool moment in time right now where there's lots of different players in positioning about how to get involved in agentic commerce, and everyone's trying to do something in agentic commerce. But the pace of innovation on this topic is so that I think that if you're not aware of the underlying fundamentals of how the whole system is changing, a lot of the solutions that are layered on top are actually going to be quite irrelevant in a matter of months.
Zack, I have a follow-up question. Like, how do you see the difference or the evolution of friendly fraud versus true fraud? Seems like the new tokenizations are really going to make a secured way to buy with true agents. But what about the other side of it, like the fine print when you buy things?
It's a great question. You sort of have the same issue the way it happens today, right? In a world where there's a network token that's provided to the merchant, the merchant actually doesn't get that PCI information as it relates to the client. They have identity. And so part of what we're helping to build out is how do you create enough of an identity framework for an end customer when the actual purchase is happening vis-a-vis an agent using a network token or an agent token is what it's being called. That's how Visa's calling it, I think, that, because they love creating two separate names for these things. That's exactly why it's so important to build a comprehensive framework, because it's real fraud, friendly fraud, non-service delivery, refunds, charge, like it's a whole suite of all the rules that Visa MasterCard has done such a good job establishing globally over decades that are actually being upended by this idea of agents coming, standing in the middle and obfuscating away who the end customer is.
Okay.
So I'll maybe take a different approach to AI and speak more about like utilization as a startup eventually that is building kind of AI natively. And I think AI for us helps transform completely what we are doing. Our already models are based on it, on our ability to predict when is the best time to charge the customers. That's one area of it. The second area is more across, I would say, payment orchestration, our ability for different payment providers to understand better the rate, to route a transaction and achieve better recovery for customers. I think the change is fundamental. It's allowing us as a small company to really serve big subscription companies and to scale significantly. But the change is not just in the technology or in the customer experience for us. It's basically on the way that we are thinking about where we are going and the models from that point of view.
Okay, so I will take it from here. And you said about small companies or medium companies, let's say Artlist or Simply or other companies that will be here on the stage. So we hear about, there's revenue recovery tools, and there are some revenue recovery tools for the first payment, for client initiated, and there is the chargeback recovery, and there is billing system, and there are so many tools that we hear about. And my question is, from your experience, from your customers, from the projects that you had, how should merchants approach it? How should we build correctly the payment and billing stack to compose all these pieces together? Do you think it's the best approach to go and buy, let's say, one-stop shop, sort of like a paddle-like? Or is it better to go and pick up, let's say, the best, offering that there is in each category? Is it better to build something in-house, build something, take white label solutions and so on? What did you see from your experience, and what's the best way to approach it?
Yeah, so it's a great question. You also heard our partners from Simply earlier and Honeybook about their approach. Listen, every business is different. They have their own challenges. I think the main thing is for every business to understand what their problem are really well to find the best solution. So if you experience a lot of pre-transaction fraud, go and get yourself a very good anti-fraud tool. Many great companies out there. If you get closer, we're in changes, VAMP rules around fraud. If you see that you get closer to the card scheme thresholds, go and get yourself a pre-chargeback alert solution. It's expensive, but it can be really effective in the right ways. But we often see, and it's really interesting, many companies that buy everything and use everything and do it inefficiently and just, basically lose money. For instance, if you would use a pre-chargeback alerts tool when you're not close to the card scheme fines, basically you lose money potentially twice because every pre-chargeback alert costs a lot of money. But on the other side of it, if you use it, you also lose the opportunity to fight chargebacks. So basically you lose twice. So the main chunk of it, when you talk about chargebacks, my advice is to really pick a solution that can scale with your business. A lot of companies use many PSPs out there. As you said, PSPs are not equal. A lot of challenges around that. So you need to ensure that as your business grows, your chargeback product really evolves with you. It can support your scale, but also can get your recovery rates higher as, the world is changing as we just talked.
We have a partner with Shopify, with Stripe, with Edian, with Chargebacks, Zora, the rest of them. I'm not sure it's a question. It's a more a customer segmentation question. It's a more preference, and it's more related to your product. We are aiming to be like the Switzerland of payment recovery and trying to be the best solution.
What do you see like in the projects that you are people just
Yeah.
contacting you by themselves? So we found you online and we heard that you're good, or they're like, well, you are partner with Zora and this is what they have. So let's like what's the main approach?
I think if you are like a top, like if you're the 1 to 5% merchant, you'll go with checkout.com with Edian in the top, like, because eventually for processing, if you need a subscription solution, you probably pick the best of the breeds of the Stripes, Zora, the Chargebacks of the world. So it's mainly a segmentation thing, I think, and mainly the customer preference over time.
Yeah, I think like it's sort of like building a house. Like if you don't have a strong foundation, you can build a beautiful house on top, but it'll sink into the floor. Which I'm learning in Tama is a very real thing here. So I think when it comes to picking your PSPs, like that's the foundation of the house, is who's connecting directly into the processors and is the core infrastructure. As I mentioned earlier, the most large companies, almost all large companies, work with multiple PSPs. You should work with multiple PSPs so you can A/B test and compare and create the right optimized outcomes, one versus the other. I would certainly recommend you spend time really thinking about choosing the right foundation of the house, because a lot of the tools that are layered on top of that are sort of filling gaps that exist for inefficiencies that originate from PSPs not doing as good of a job as they could be. And then there's certain areas that PSPs touch differently. So I see our friend from Stripe. If you want to incorporate a business, Checkout's not going to help you with that, but Stripe will help you with that. So I think you should also take a look at the range of services that each PSP offers, and make sure that you're also choosing the right PSP that's able to solve the right problems for you.
Okay, so and last question I would ask also from your experience. I was saying, so we need to choose the stack, we need to have decisions. Who are the stakeholders usually at the companies? Because I know that not all companies obviously have a dedicated payments team. It takes time to get there. Who are the stakeholders you're talking to? Are these only, let's say, CFOs or only CTOs, or is this a cross-functional team? And how you think is the best way to approach that when you're looking for the tools?
Yeah, interesting. So obviously it's a game of collaboration between the product teams and the payments and the chargeback support, like to really, nail revenue recovery. I'll try to take a different approach also to that. I think it's not only the internal teams collaboration, but also collaboration between the merchants and the vendors. I can give 2 real-life examples from working with our partners and our merchants. So one, for a very large retailer, we saw a pattern that they issue refunds after chargeback were posted and basically defended. And basically, this means that they potentially lose the funds twice, right? So when we highlighted such an insight, this company really changed their internal collaboration to get to a point where this does not happen. And for another retailer, our product also popped up a really interesting pattern that for 3DS transactions, we saw really low or relatively low recovery rates on chargebacks. And this obviously should not happen. We expect 3DS flows to be relatively high. And when we took it with them, they actually dug in with their product and found out that they have a bug in their 3DS flow. So this collaboration is really key to enhance revenue.
Sell directly to CFOs and finance team. And it's a funny sell in a way that those teams used to buy like forecasting and budgeting tool. And we are coming with a revenue generating tool. But we found that those teams are the most kind of knowledgeable, understand the economics of the business, and actually know the numbers the best. They involve other teams like the product team, the marketing team, etc. So this is kind of the teams that we see.
Yeah, I think for us, it depends. It's usually, we talk internally about multi-threadedness. Usually it's quite a big decision to choose a new PSP. So you traditionally have the product path and the finance path. Usually one leads, then the other gets involved at some point in the process. And then many times it becomes a C-level decision where you end up also speaking, depending on the size of the company, either to a C-level exec sponsor or many times the CEO themselves. So it just depends. I think the other thing to keep in mind though, Shahar, to your point, which is spot on, is many times it also is a collaboration among different partners and working together, making sure that also when you're selecting the right vendor and group, that those groups work really nicely and well together. I'll use us as an example. I had breakfast with Ophir yesterday. We're here today. Our teams are doing a dinner together in New York this week. Like there's a lot of great collaboration between Checkout and Justt because 1 + 1 = 3. So that's another area that I would think about is like, how do you make sure that you're building the right collaborations and partnerships when you're choosing a suite of partners together.
Lovely. So we're right on time. Thank you very much. It was great fun. And hopefully we'll meet again soon.